Good afternoon. This is Duane Lowry with the DPP Grain Desk with the Sunday night outlook for this evening's trade and the week ahead. First of all, we're not going to have quite the same week that we had a week ago. Outside markets may have an influence, but not a dramatic way. Last week's volatility in the outside markets finished on a supportive tone, and while we may be trading trying to define some wider ranges, and there may be volatility within those ranges, I don't think it'll be the type of panic volatility that spills over and affects other markets solely for the impact of the panic itself. We still have a foundational economic condition that is troubling, concerning, with plenty of problems ahead. Probably still a very slow growth situation, and the market's going to worry at times about recession and things of this nature. But the emotion of the panic and those type of influences probably won't be much of an influence to the grain trade here this week. Weather's going to be the first focus. Weekend precip was less than expected, both in coverage and in precip totals. The 2-week outlook for weather, temperatures look to be relatively mild, maybe even on the cool side at times in locations. So any stress that occurs due to lack of precip will probably be limited due to the mild temperature outlook. But as far as precip is concerned, there's less precip in the forecast. The overall theme is a drier theme than we had most of last week, and falling on the heels of a disappointing weekend event, weather probably gets a supportive look. The trade is very much trying to come to grips and determine whether crops are getting larger or smaller than the sharply reduced and aggressive lowering of estimates by USDA on Thursday, and tonight's forecast of a relatively dry outlook is probably going to tip the scale towards people believing that the crop size is going to get smaller. I don't personally agree with that theory, but I think that's going to be the prevailing theme for a while, at least for this week, and as long as the weather has somewhat of a drier theme. So weather gets a supportive tone, and that's going to provide support to everything here tonight. Corn, the big argument here continues to be what the final production number will be, what the final yields will be, and I say it's a debate, but there's not a lot of conviction on either side. If there's a leaning, the trade is biased towards the idea that the crop will continue to get smaller. So look for corn to be well supported. We had a sharp gain on Thursday. The performance in relationship to what was expected in terms of being limit up, that was a disappointment. Friday's price action certainly could be labeled as a disappointment. It is not unreasonable to expect some sort of pause action, and you could certainly see trade on both sides in corn tonight and or tomorrow. But overall, it's going to be well supported, and people are looking to buy weakness here, both probably from the short-term technical crowd and the fundamental crowd. So corn will be well supported, probably start a little bit better, and then the trade will be looking to the crop condition reports tomorrow afternoon. If these show even a minor decline in crop ratings during the last week, that will strengthen trader confidence that the crop sizes is going to be equal or below what USDA gave us last Thursday, and so that's going to be an important thing to set the tone for this week, how these crop ratings come out tomorrow. As far as beans are concerned, the weather is going to get a supportive tone because we're lacking precip. The lack of temperature threat will ease any production concerns, but the trade is going to continue to lean towards the idea that the crop is getting smaller. It's also important to point out again that in Thursday's reports, while the corn got the immediate attention, from a longer term perspective, the soybean market is laying a fairly supportive foundation. That's not to mean that we can't have a harvest time or a pre-harvest break. That's not to mean that we can't feel more confident about yield potential during the next few weeks as we get ready for harvest. But from a longer term perspective, the reduced acreage in the U.S., the reduced yield, is going to put a lot of pressure on South America the market's going to have a desire that South America maximizes acreage increases this year, and I think that from a longer term perspective, soybeans will be well supported once some sort of a seasonal harvest low is established. I'm not sure that we have established that low as of yet, and right at the present time my bias would be to believe that we have not. But from a short-term perspective, the market has been cleansed out of longs were liquidated even before the Thursday's report came out. The market is relatively clean, relatively healthy, certainly capable of absorbing some buying energy. And I think with the weather forecast the way it is this week, the short-term technicals providing support and buying interest on any weakness if it were to occur early this week, you're probably looking at a fairly well-supported soybean market this week. And so let's call the beans a little bit higher as well. Wheat doesn't have much for news independent of itself. It's going to be a row crop follower. The wheat market, from a relationship perspective, is very cheap relative to corn. It's probably cheap relative to soybeans at the present time. From intermarket spreaders, I think looking at wheat and corn, I wouldn't be surprised you got people here that want to buy some wheat. The winter crop is being put away, harvest is winding down. Global export demand and buying interest seems to be picking up a little bit. So it would not surprise me for wheat to see some independent strength, see wheat gain on corn, despite the fact that trader focuses largely on corn. So expect wheat to be well supported. You're probably 30 cents off the recent highs. You got plenty of room to rally in wheat if that's what they desire to do. And my suspicion is that they do desire to rally wheat this week. So all things considered, I wouldn't rule out trade on both sides tonight. I wouldn't rule out weakness. I wouldn't rule out some people looking to label weather as bearish because it lacks a temperature threat, but it also lacks as much precip as would be desired. And so I think we'll be well supported tonight, and look for the market to have a firm bias going into Monday afternoon ratings. If those ratings are unchanged or a decline, you're probably going to continue to see some additional buying. Looking ahead a little bit beyond this week, let's say that the market performs well this week. I don't think we have a situation here where we have the overall structure of the marketplace from a speculative environment that's willing to sponsor new ownership with sustained buying activity. So strength this week that goes up and challenges or probes above recent highs, probes above Thursday's post-report reaction highs, that's probably a selling opportunity, and we're probably soon going to be looking at establishing a pre-harvest peak from which prices will decline. So producers need to sharpen your pencils, take a look at opportunities that are presented this week, and view any strength as just that, an opportunity. Overall, the corn market has a price ceiling type of structure to it. That's been the leader. It's saturated with length. Soon a liquidation phase is going to unfold, and we may have some post-report buying here to absorb, but I don't think we're going to get too carried away on the upside, and we're going to have a very difficult time sustaining these levels. For the DPP Grain Desk, this has been Duane Lowry. Thanks for your time and attention.